So Artmage has managed to win an event. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more Oz content. So 1,167 duelists stepped up to go play Yu-Gi-Oh! This weekend in Vegas. And we have some interesting results here. It looks like, wow, Yummy took up so much of this pie chart. Like, this is kind of insane. So Yummy was your big bad for the weekend. 6 Fiends from Yummy, 1 Radiant Typhoon Tri-Brigade Yummy, and 1 Azumina Mitsurugi Yummy. Meanwhile, down here you had Draco Tail bringing up the rear with a lot of different variations. You had 4 in your top 8, which is kind of insane. Now, close behind that, we had 4 Vanquish Soul, which is kind of impressive. And then we had Mitsurugi only bringing up the rear with 2. We had 2 Malice, 2 Lunalight, and we had, yes, Artmage, and we even had 1 Mitsurugi Sky Striker variant. Definitely a good pile of decks here. Now, obviously, Team Draco Tail here ended up getting top 4, which is kind of funny. But, I mean, overall, looking at your representation, Lunalight came top 4, which is not bad. Another Lunalight down here in top 8. But you also had Enneacraft coming in to top 16. So that'll be something interesting. We do see that list a little bit later on. I'd be a little bit excited to see that. Now, let's go pass on over to some of those deck lists. All right, so the first place team, we are going to be seeing pure Mitsurugi, actually, which is kind of refreshing to see because most of the time, this deck has just been kind of tossed into the dumpster. Nobody really looks at it anymore. But when you do kind of have to acknowledge, you know, board breakers present in here, all of the ritual madness, and then actually playing triple Murakumo, that was one thing that most builds were kind of staying away from. They just were not choosing to admit that they wanted to play triple of these. So I find that particularly interesting. But outside of that, good. Wozu also coming in massively clutch here in the side deck. You never see this card in the main deck. Other interesting things, you do get to see warnings in action, which does make this very good. But we also do get to see this card is very much a problem facilitator. Being able just to kind of force the game into a macro state, taking away those important key resources from your opponents. Very good. Also, shout out to the Super Poly Targets of Madness. Pretty funny. Next up here, we had Artmage with K9. Now, realistically, this is just K9 featuring Artmage at this point. You have to put an emphasis on how much of this K9 package there actually is in this deck. Now, in terms of Artmage, I mean, like, you have a couple of very strong monsters. You are going to get some massive upgrades in the next set, which is going to help out very, very nicely. But in terms of what you got going on, I mean, this is it, people. The K9 stuff, I do think, was one of the strongest assets you had. Also, having access to Saruja to kind of sculpt your hand with the K9 stuff has become a little bit more of a norm as well now. And it also proves that, you know, this is what Vanquish Soul's been doing as well. They've been using this as a sculpt tool. Also, once again, you do get to see that tech of Solemn Warning actually doing very, very, very strong work for, you know, these decks post side decking. It's almost like this card's incredibly good. Next up here, I see we also have Malice. Now, Malice isn't doing anything really too creative at the moment. I think one of the most interesting things we do have down here is this list is actually playing Godos, which is just what, when your opponent adds a card from their deck to the hand, except during the draw phase, we can special summon this during the opponent's main phase. You can bump something out of their graveyard and bring it to your field. I think this is the first time in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! That I have seen Hekahan Godos actually seeing play, which this might actually say something about current metagame trends. Maybe there is something to this guy. I also do see this bit work on the triple lore darkness hype train. I actually quite like this a lot. Being able to use a lore to turbo into your deck just to get set up is an absolutely amazing thing, and it's one of the reasons why this deck is very, very scary. Next up is Lunalight. By the way, for the for the subrecord. I believe at this YCS it was ruled that if you use SP's effect, your Liger Dancer could not attack directly. The OCG actually has a contradictory ruling to that says SP affects the field. Liger Dancer is unaffected, so Liger Dancer would be able to attack. So if we're going by OCG precedents, that ruling was a little bit of a hiccup over the weekend for Liger Dancer and friends. Interesting also here, only one tanky. They've gone with the triple Foolish Barrel Goods instead, which, you know what? Foolish Barrel Goods with the Serenade Dance is probably a little bit better. We've got the third Masquerade in the side deck. We also have Tack Talents. We're also side decking the additional tankies. If you know what you're against, boarding in the additional tankies to up your deck's consistency is not going to be a bad thing. That's why you see builds choosing to do this. And we also have some Vanquish Soul. There's a lot of Vanquish Soul remnants out of the weekend. I'm not particularly excited for the amount of them we're going to be covering here, but it's interesting. Though this one actually chose to play the Retaliating Sea in the main deck, which is kind of interesting. But this is also this is a result of the meta. Retaliating Sea says, hey, yeah, your Draco Tail player activated a spell card that has an effect with special summons. I'm going to have to use this Macrocosmo to be able to, control the game. And that's where, this card really does get its value to shine. Also, one Chaotic Elements. This is actually playing the Force Release. It's crazy because so many of these Vanquish Soul lists have just foregone playing Force Release. They've just moved it to the side deck. See, we're also side decking the Snow Devil as well. So they just did not want to have a lot of the major pieces. Interesting. And their team A here actually playing Draco Tail. Now, if you do look at Draco Tail, 2-1 on your ratios is fine. Actually playing Ghost Bells, which is nice. I'm glad to see we're not doing the 3 Incredible Ecclesia madness that some of these lists have been trying to do. We've also got 2 Pan, but we're side decking the additional Pan as well. We're also side decking an additional Blazing Cartesia as well. The fact you've already got 2 in the main and you're like, all right, well, depending on the situation, I need to up my consistency. So let's board in the additional Blazing Cartesia just to make sure that, we can get those results is good. We've also got 8 Maul Charmies between the main and side deck, and this list is also playing Nibiru. It's kind of interesting to see Nibiru kind of rotating back in to the current meta, because it really does say something about where things are right now. So I like this a lot. Most of these lists are pretty boring, but this one's got some tech about it. Now, I told you I had some more Vanquish Soul. We had to look at the 7th place team because I just absolutely love Vanquish Soul. 1 Noroi, going with triple Jialong as you should be. There really is nothing exciting in the main deck here. We do get to see the triple Retaliating Sea, but also keep in mind here, we talked about that rank up spell card during the last, Vanquish Soul list you just saw here. No rank up spell. I'm wondering if the rank up spell made that much of a difference between lists here. Does it truly matter that much to have the rank up spell or not in order to, kind of deviate things? Also, a lot of these lists have been playing Kunguri. Being able to actually use Quinguri to, get those free special summons reset back up is actually pretty important. Also, I do see we're playing the Ark Rebellion here as well. This list had a lot of interesting little tech choices about it, which is kind of interesting. Next up here, I certainly do love me Vanquish Soul. This list is playing 1 Ghost Spell, but they've also chosen to play the Snow Devil. I swear, people think this card's a hindrance. We're also going with 2 Jialong. So you're telling me we can play either 2 Jialong, 3 Jialong now, and it's not really going to matter? Of course, we've gone to the 2 Lantern now as well, which is fine. You also do, once again, see we have Retaliating Seas down here. We also have Dimensional Fissures. You have the vacuum of all of the degeneracy that makes this deck really good. Also, shout out to Zen Maya. I think this card, it seems good, but that's the trap. You look at this card and you're like, oh wow, pop 2 is great. And then you realize it can only work on 2. They got 1 back row. This card is worthless. Literally. It's going to do nothing for you, which is kind of crazy. And then our last list here is some more Malice. This build was a little bit spicy. You chose to only play 2 Allure Darkness. I don't know why you chose to forego probably the more important asset you got. We also chose to play a good chunk of extra Mulcharmies in the deck, just to kind of keep things going. We do have, you're still only playing 1 Malice in the mirror. And of course, your trap lineup, side decking the extra trap card down here. And you do get to see ye old dimensional fissures being the call up here, just to be able to get access to things. But overall, I mean, Distant Coder's deck was probably the most interesting out of the entire YCS. Now, can we get a format change, please? Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here in the day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.